Welcome to episode 10 of Rogue Mode 0 to 40 in Flight of Nova. We're currently at grade 12, but we're almost at grade 13. So I'm kind of hoping that we're going to get all the way to grade 14 in this episode. I'm a little bit sick still. I was really sick this morning. I called in sick, but lucky because I called in sick, I have some extra energy. You know, if I had worked today and was sick all day, I probably would just want to crash out at the end of the day. I thought about trying to make it, but I couldn't even eat this morning. I was just feeling really sick. I mean, you always got it in you if you wanted to do it badly enough, but I mean, you just gotta want it, you know, the ROI, the return on investment's gotta be there. So I'm gonna clean my inbox. I'm in a freighter right now, but this will take me to Sullen, which I haven't been to yet. And I can probably grab another ship on the way. So let me see if there's a shuttle would be a better way to go to the Sullen. Less than 20 kilometers. So first I'll mark where the shuttle is. Then I'll fly the 1,300 kilometers over to the beginning of the mission, which is right there in front of me. Oh, here we are at Montes Para. How very nice. Alright, we just gotta find the shuttle, which is right there. That's not a helicopter outside. I believe that's our washing machine. So I'm just gonna grab this shuttle. I'm gonna go refuel right there on that pad, and then we'll start taking the 1,300 kilometers trip over to the base 11 whatever. And then I'm quite excited to go to Sullen. I don't think I've been to Sullen yet in Rogue Mode 0 to 40 or in the map missions, which means I haven't been to Sullen for quite a while. So I'll just change craft here. Put down my landing gears. Give it a gentle hover on over to the pad. Try to actually land on the pad. Refuel, repair, remove the marker for the shuttle. And away we go. Alright, so 1,300 kilometers. It's kind of a far trip. It's a little too far to do a ballistic trajectory. I mean, you can, but I'm gonna go for hypersonic. So I'm gonna get up to about 40 kilometers altitude, and then I'm going to try to stay within 40 to 60 kilometers altitude, and I'm going to try to get up to a pretty good velocity. I don't know, by the time I actually get up to velocity I'll still have like 1,000 kilometers to go, so at least 5,000. Alright, so we're coming up to 30 kilometers altitude. So now we should start to be able to gain some velocity pretty quickly because we have a lot less friction. Air density is 0.07. Alright, now at 40 kilometers altitude, I really want to get cranking down. I'm going to have some high G's, high G maneuver. But then coming up on 50 here, I want to be leveling off. Oh yeah. This is going to be a full orbital velocity trip. Looks like to me. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and cut the power. I'm going to cut the power pretty soon. Now. And I'm going to throw some trim. Start trimming up a little bit. I want to be kind of gaining a little bit of altitude from here, not losing it. My FPA is still negative though. Alright, pretty soon I'm going to have to start pulling some high G maneuvers, braking maneuvers, because we are really ticking down them kilometers, but we are not ticking down our velocity. Alright, so at 400 kilometers, I'm going to start pulling some higher performance braking maneuvers. Look, I'm maxing out. I might even overshoot, but it won't bother me to overshoot. I got 60% of my fuel. I can probably find another land base on the way. Yeah, it looks like I overshot for sure. Alright, so I went for a 3,000, but I was only going 1,300, but that's what you get sometimes. So we'll just slow down as quickly as possible. See how far away we are when we get to that point. Hopefully no more than like 500 kilometers. Oh, we're already 150 kilometers away. That's alright, we still got 2.5 hours before we actually need to be there. Alright, so we didn't make it all the way out to 300 kilometers. But I probably should have killed that throttle down at 7,000. It is the closest land base in this region from where I am now. It is a base that I'm going to. Sullen is a 1,000 kilometers altitude station, so not as extreme as Galdar, but it works about the same when, at that distance. Not particularly hopeful to go through this dust cloud on the way to that landing pad. Coming in for a landing. It's my birthday coming up here in a couple days. That's why my dad sent me all this candy. Yum. He also sent me this giant cylinder of roast beef. 4 cans. That must have cost an arm and a leg in these times. I was looking up beef on Amazon. It is more than $10 a can like that. Which some people might say, only $10. I make $350,000, $200,000 a year. And I'm poor. But I don't make $200,000 a year. I have about $200 a week. It's a reasonable estimate of discretionary spending. Alright, 51 minutes away. So Sullen is my second favorite. First favorite station. I actually kind of like it a little bit better than Da Costa. Although Sullen is a spaceship, not really a space station. Whereas Da Costa is like a space station. So Sullen is like visiting a spaceship in orbit. It has a giant engine. I'll be ending the mission at Sullen, which will be nice. I'm just going to need to get pointing east. Then I need to hit my throttle on. SSTO hypersonic shuttle. Really, this is my favorite ship in the game. The person who designed this ship did not design it for this game. I know of this because I tried to make my own video game, and if you look on the Unity Asset Store, you can find this ship. Or I'm pretty sure that's what happened. But there are some things about this ship that are really cool. So my Apoapsis is now available, so I better make sure to watch it and go past 1,000. But the big square nose is actually a relevant design for hypersonic vehicles. So a big square nose is not just a fashion item. So this whole ship actually, I mean, it's probably not a well-designed ship. All in all, it's still a video game ship, but many of the aspects of the ship's design are fun to think about. For example, they're not used in this game, but there are other nozzles. And so you have, what you would have is, you would have vacuum nozzles and atmospheric nozzles. And you would actually, what you would want to be doing in this case is that in atmosphere you would want to use one set of engines, and in space you would use another set of engines, because you would have one set of engines that's vacuum optimized and one of them that's more optimized for lower altitude flight to give you an advantage when trying to fly to launch from the ground. You get a bit more efficiency with a low altitude optimized nozzle. I have no idea what's going on with some of these things on here, but then of course obviously it's obviously a re-entry vehicle shape, you know. I mean, that's obviously for re-entry, the way that this vehicle is shaped, for coming in at extreme velocities into the atmosphere and catching plenty of lift. staying aerodynamically stable nose front during such an event. As somebody who doesn't know anything about performance aerodynamics, I couldn't tell you if there's something to know about those fins, or if there's a relevant hypersonic or re-entry style design that would be associated with those fins. But then we do have air intakes, which are suggestive of using air breathing as part of the engine function while in atmosphere. This nozzle on the bottom, the VTOL nozzle, that one I'm 100% sure was added by the game developer of this game, as well as the landing gear, which you can extend even out in space. Although I kind of feel like he may have asked the graphic artist to make those landing gear for him for this ship, for this game. So some aspects of this ship will be unique to the game. But you can actually go and include this ship in your game, which I did do in my game. Although the ship doesn't work, and the ship is just there to be a Flight of Nova ship. It's not there to be part of my game. It's just there because, you know, Flight of Nova is a similar kind of game to my game in that you're ideally hoping to achieve some of the aspects of a more realistic spaceflight. Whereas in my game, you know, it's a totally different game. It's like a drone racing of spaceships. But then, you know, you could imagine a world where the pilots who are flying these ships in Flight of Nova would first sport go do that kind of drone racing that's in my game. Sometimes before the time skips were a lot better, what I would do is I would be stuck in a 12,000 kilometer flight around the planet, just having to wait 20 minutes while my ship was in orbit. And I would try to play my game in the second screen while this game is running. Alright, so I have quite a bit of inclination. No good. So I better correct that because I'm way far away from where I need to be. So I'm not terribly concerned with approaching 0 at this point, but I can use that window method so you can see it's no longer moving that way across my screen. My camera's like pointing the wrong direction. Okay? So now it's like not moving so significantly across my screen. Now I'm flying more directly at it. So I should have an easier time of intercepting the station when I'm flying more directly at it. And then I'll just let my circularization burn. I'll use the local velocity indicator for that space station to cancel out my inclination. And I'm going to go ahead and engines on right now to get up to that orbital velocity. So my distance is a little bit farther away than I would do if I was in a perfectly ideal approach, but I'm not. I'm coming in at kind of a dogleg at this point. So I'll want a little bit of extra time. So now, at this point, I should be able to see that velocity indicator on my screen for sure. Oh yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. So I call that Ico Poppy's window method because he gave his tutorial using the window. But I can't see out the window, the goddamn. Alright, now we need to get lined up with the anti-local. And we need to get throttle on right now. Alright, there's Solon Station. Thank you. All right. Stable orbit. You can see my nice circularization indicator showing that my altitude is going to remain actually rather constant, with my apoapsis and periapsis over there showing me that I'm going to be 1056 and 1045, so very little variation. That means that actually I would be flinging away from this thing in the long run, but I'm not sure if that works in the game. I'm not sure how it works in the game because I'm not sure if, while we're in such near space, these objects are actually going to drift apart as they would in real life. That does happen when you're not in the local space of the space station. And it would make sense that it would happen because I still have all of my orbital information being calculated. Obviously, I'm not going to just try to zero my velocity, which would be almost impossible to do anyway, and then wait and see. But that was a close one. Kept hitting the yaw the wrong direction. Look at that. I got Montana Station, only 1,000 kilometers away, and it's approaching. So if I was not playing a mission at all, then I would be trying to go to Montana Station for sure. Let's see if we have any Montana Station missions. Could just fly to Montana Station. Drifting cargo difficulty current ship is not compatible. Okay, so we do have a Montana Station mission. Let's see if we have a dock bay freighter, and we do have a freighter. So now we are now in the freighter and refueling, and so I'm gonna so I'm going to go ahead and accept the Montana Station drifting cargo mission. Station Montana drifting cargo. Accept the mission. Now we could hang out here for a minute because it's gradually approaching, but I'm not interested in doing all of that. We're refueled. Let me just enjoy what Sullen Station looks like. That's what I'll do to eat up some time. We'll try to get a good view of Montana Station. Or of Sullen Station. So Sullen Station, as you can see, is clearly not a space station per se. It's obviously a spaceship. There's a big old engine on the back. It's very peaceful to come out here. And it's so nicely lit right now, it's the perfect time to tourist. There's the big old booster. So I don't know if that's a fusion reactor from an era before, and now this station has been decommissioned. This ship has been decommissioned and is now just a station, or what you would call that for lore. But or maybe it's an interstellar, an interplanetary travel ship, you know, and it's just here temporarily until operations get established for one company or another. But we're gonna start heading down to Montana. And it's gonna be catching up to us, so we'll just fly straight down for a little bit. Close enough, anyway. And here we go. We're departing Sullen Station. Man, we have a lot of power in these engines, right? All right, so we're gonna go all the way down to 188 altitude. So I'm gonna want to go for a velocity differential that's pretty rapid. Let's see what Sullen says we're going. We're going 2.6 away from Sullen. We're gonna have to get straight to lining ourselves up as soon as we leave Sullen. I'm gonna go 5 away from Sullen and then try to make sure I'm lined up correctly. Alright, we're going 5 away from Sullen. So now we just need to window method. So I'll just throw my indicator right on there. And I can see that we are kind of drifting with some inclination, it looks like. Let me see if I can kill that inclination with some RCS thrusters. As long as we're at 0 inclination right now, I think that'll be okay. Yeah, that is not working. Let me zero out my inclination. There we go. 0 inclination. Let's get back looking at Montana. We're already within 500 kilometers of Montana Station. And we are getting ahead of ourselves. Alright, now we're flying much more directly at Montana Station. So, I'm gonna go ahead and start hitting the brakes now. kill my throttle. Slowed down a lot, but I don't want to slow down to the exact correct approach speed because I'm not actually confident in my approach yet. So we're 40 kilometers away. So actually, I'm happy to get up to faster approach speed, approach velocity, relative velocity. We'll get to about 1, and then get ready for the flip and burn. All right, let's grab that flip and burn angle. And with this vehicle and this loadout, we're gonna go for 15 right there. A little bit overzealous. So, retrieve drifting cargo. There it is. 3.4 kilometers away. So there's the station, and there's the cargo. So we just need to actually go over to the cargo. See what kind of approach velocity we have. That is adequate. I'm just gonna go ahead for the slow approach. Find my anti-local. I'll just approach using my RCS at this point. Sometimes I get a little confused when I'm in this view because obviously the RCS doesn't change for which direction is which, like it does on the top camera. I wish there was a way that the top camera's RCS would actually not change. And then I would have to get used to that for docking. But I would eventually figure it out. Alright, now we just bring it on over to Montaigne. And of course they want me to go to the dock pad. But I know something about Montana Station. And what I know is that they have a dock port. So I'm gonna get over here, and I think I might even be going right for the dock port right now. And do the dock port first, as is tradition. You know, we don't play these space games so that we can use a landing pad in space. I do believe I'm looking right at the dock port right now. So we'll just go align to the dock port at Montaigne. And coming to a nice relative zero velocity, or zero-ish. And then we will go ahead and approach the dock port. Docking successful. Get away from this dock port a little bit. Start heading over to the dock pad. Montaigne. Alright, we've now delivered the salvaged cargo. Alright, station gauge level is 182 for an orbit of 758. Let's undock right now. We don't have time to play around. Let's find our 0 point. Let me get out here a little bit. Close enough. Time to burn. Alright, so we are really running short on time here. Wait, did I accept that mission? I don't think I accepted that mission. So let me pop into my FMS and accept that mission. Alright, so now our destination is... Alright, so we're going to try to align up a little bit closer. Pick up water self-load. And we're going to be really cutting it close On the re-entry, we're gonna have a shorter re-entry than normal, but we'll just go for a slightly more aggressive braking, the descent pattern, and that should put us right where we want to be. We're going right about there. You can see we're coming in. And we'll just try to catch as much brakes as we can here by staying as vertical as possible. And then we should dive down to about 50 kilometers altitude. And hopefully after this maneuver, we're lined up just about where we want to be. Alright, we're coming up to a 0 FPA, so we'll go ahead and level it off. And then we'll put our trim on there. Try to reach and stay at a 0 FPA. But since we're a slightly lower altitude than normal, we should see that it's a little bit more of an aggressive brake the whole time. And then Gava Station is, I believe it's one of the new ones. It's a very big space station. Does it show an active level? That's what I want to know right now. Well, it does say 14. But only in the pause menu. Maybe I'm gonna go to the Discord and say that they should make the active or the current level available in the FMS. So that mission did appear at the launch window, but if I didn't check it right when it appeared, I would have passed the launch window. So I guess I think that that's probably is actually what he's trying to do, is have it be appearing at the launch window, but I think there should be more of a lead time on there. You know, because I don't want to have to see message and then accept the mission immediately. I'm probably in the middle of something when that happens. So 3,000 meters per second is Mach 8, huh? kind of wonder if that's accurate. I think Mach might change with altitude. Now at this rate, it's entirely possible that I'll have enough fuel to launch to orbit without refueling. I mean, you can't time skip without landing on a landing pad. Or see your launch window. Capture. Is that Gaba? No, that's greenhouse. So let's go ahead and come in for a landing. Gaba Station, 758 kilometers. Better elevator up here. And time skip. Alright, so our current latitude is 0.8. So we're going to be having to go south a little bit. Due south on our ascent trajectory. Dogleg onto that 0 lat. Because all space stations in this game are at 0 lat. Which is a little unrealistic for all space stations to sit at a perfectly equatorial orbit. But it really does a lot for the gameplay, so if you ask me, it's a perfectly acceptable compromise, because now there's only so many space stations, but they're always all lined up to each other, so you can fly from one space station to a next a lot easier, and also your launch windows are a lot simpler. Every time the station goes around the planet, there's a launch window, no matter what. An easy one with a minimal dogleg. All right. There goes land base, whatever. There goes greenhouse, I believe. Oh, that's Palmas. Oh man, Palmas is a good station. It's not particularly special, but I just always have a lot of good missions over there. Here comes Alkin. Alkin is another giant space station. Coming up on our apoapsis becoming visible, coming up on instrumentation change. We just need to set our apoapsis to 758. So technically speaking, I'm pretty sure that real life, you would not just launch everywhere above 188 at 50 degrees and then go for that kind of trajectory. I think there's probably a more efficient way to get to higher altitudes than that in real life. But this game has a lot of propellant. And another thing about those realistic trajectories out to higher altitudes is that they take a long time. I mean, what do you got all day? This game already takes a long time. When you're just gonna sit around and just wait for, you know, all this kind of stuff. And then some people say, well, Kerbal has time skip for that. Once you know your trajectory is on point, then you just hit time skip, which is a reasonable thing to want. And I'm sure the game developer would consider putting that in there. It's a huge project. I mean, Kerbal Space Program 2 actually just went bankrupt trying to build that project. And you can argue about, well, you don't need all the stuff they put in there, but on the other hand, the bottom line is all of that instrumentation is some serious work, and all of that other gameplay stuff is some serious work. And this is a Unity game made by one person, you know? And another thing too is that if you really want to play Kerbal Space Program, you should just go play Kerbal Space Program, because I'm to understand it's a very good game, you know, and if that's what you want to play. You know, I played a lot of Kerbal Space Program, but I didn't play it correctly. I played drone racing in Kerbal Space Program until I built my own game. I never really got good at using Kerbal Space Program Fly to Orbit. This is my first Fly to Orbit game. But anyways, you know, if you want to play Kerbal Space Program and use all that more realistic instrumentation, Kerbal Space Program is available. And this kind of game is not really the right place for that kind of gameplay. I mean, this kind of game is about winging it, and you have extra fuel. So why do the most efficient trajectory and use a time skip when you can just use your fuel and get there quickly, you know, and go more directly? So you still have to overcome orbital mechanics, but you don't have to use the most efficient interface with orbital mechanics. You can still just fly directly at your destination, and then you just gotta correct along the way. But you don't have to, from your periapsis, perform the shortest possible burn and then wait till your apoapsis to perform your shortest possible burn to circularize. That kind of stuff is fun to do, and you can do it in this game if you're willing to wait for it. And I would never say it's not a good thing to do. I mean, it's quite fun, but it would be a lot of work to put it in the game. It would add very little to the game, because every player would go through a little phase of that, and then they would change their gameplay to just get there more quickly and fly like Han Solo. So the game already allows you to just fly like Han Solo. So why don't you just cut to the chase, have as little bit of help as you can. You know for sure you can get out to every station if you just take the launch window and fly at a 50. And then once you start getting the hang of that, then you can just get flying from one station to the next, or, you know, picking your own launch windows. You don't need to follow their launch windows. You can pick your own. Matter of fact, in the pause menu, you can turn on advanced mode and change your launch window right here. In map missions in free mode. So I guess not in rogue mode yet. So a great player to go, and I mean, just like this game takes a long time, you gotta sit through some amount of his videos and try to watch the video. It's not like you look up an article and there's bullet points. So it is a little bit of work in that sense, but there's a player who basically, that's where I figured out everything I needed to know to get basically rough started. They're called Ico. They were called Ico Poppy, but now they're called Ico something else, but they're Ico. So if you go to the Discord and you find Ico and you look up their videos, because they'll be linked in the Discord, then you'll be able to get some rough grounds, you know, to get used to the orbital mechanics between that and what the game already shows you. And then you'll be able to get feeling it out for yourself and just like kind of figure out all on your own, you know, how it is that you want to go about your ideal station approaches or all that kind of stuff. And that's way more what this game is about. You know, if you want to do the most efficient space gaming, then, you know, this kind of Elite Dangerous style ship isn't even realistic. It's probably not the best game for it anyway. You know, I mean, we disembark from a space station with as much, as they call it Delta V, but with as much fuel and power as we take off from the ground, which is a little bit unrealistic. I mean, even in a very distant future. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and line up our anti-local. You know, Han Solo is not going to sit around waiting for the launch window and achieving a most efficient periapsis burn for multiple orbits until he reaches his desired apoapsis to align. He's just gonna go and he's gonna use engine and he's gonna go halfway there and he's gonna flip and burn halfway back, and he's gonna probably overshoot but use the station as a brake and come crashing right into some kind of shipping container along the way, and then everyone's gonna be like, you hit my shipping container, and he's gonna be like, let me throw you some money and we'll just get over it. Alright, hitting the brakes on this one. Now we gotta find a dock port. See how big this station is? Just gotta find a dock port. Alright, can we see a dock port? There's one right there. Perfect. And so we'll just hit up a dock port. Then from there, we'll fly on down to the docking pad, which I'm sure it is, since I'm in the freighter. these giant space stations are confusing because so much of my time in the game, when I first started playing the game, there was no missions, there was no giant space stations, there was not as many space stations, the land bases weren't as big, and I got all of my practice like visually orienting to approach how big how the space station changes in size when you get closer to it, to how fast that means you're going with all of the smaller space stations. So now every time I come to a big space station, I just get confused because I'm way farther away from it than I think I am, or I'm going way faster than I think I am, just from the visual change in how the space station grows. So I'll go to Dockport 21. I kind of feel like I probably should start hitting the brakes already, but it's always really misleading how fast you're going. Alright, I'm satisfied. That I know how fast I'm going. Undock. Actually, I'm just gonna juice it. Get over there quickly. Can't see nothing. Can't tell if I need to go in there or just to the other side of it. I think it's in there, but I'm not sure where the inside gets into from. Oh yeah, right there. feel like these ships should have more forward RCS thrust. Like, it should have more forward and reverse RCS thrust than horizontal thrust. And I think that it actually has less forward RCS thrust because so many players are not going to have forward RCS be part of their thing, because when they're going to push forward, they're going to have fewer controls than mine. I have a very complex home-built controller with lots of inputs, and that means that I can really separate every control. Whereas many players may not have that, and so for them, forward is just going to always be their main engine. And I kind of feel like maybe the oh, wrong button. Here we go, landing it gently onto the docking pad. Deliver the water, and I think that's going to be the video, which will push us quite a bit closer to 15, I think. Alright, so let me just kind of hold my controller up in front of the camera. See if you can make it out. And you see I have lots of controls there. And that kind of gives me the ability to, and then I have more controls on the bottom. Lots of joysticks, lots of inputs, great for space gaming. Still grade 14, but we're gonna call that a video. So that was it for episode 9 or 10, I think 10, of Rogue Mode 0 to 40. Thank you very much.